So we have the drum sound effect creating this aesthetic tension, I think, between absurd surrealism and realistic naturalism. Then Meg and Goldberg have this exchange where Goldberg shows his kind of his faux charming side that he makes extensive use of throughout the play, but particularly with women. And I think part of that characterization is important because often what Stanley is accused of is this some kind of issue connected to femininity in some fashion. Um, and that Goldberg's sort of politesse that he so often exemplifies seems to represent the contrast. But as we see as we go further through the play, this also is a sham. So he's wonderful, out of this world, talking about Meg's dress, and he understands how to manipulate her. But again, through this sort of politeness, I think we see the alternative to Stanley. Yeah, someone who is effective at faking, um, effective at faking gentility, that ultimately has no authentic emotional connection, whereas Stanley is the reverse. At the end of this, he asks for his glasses. Could I have my glasses? And this is Stan's sort of central redeeming feature, that he can see, Goldberg and McCann, and he can see reality itself. And I think there's an ironic contrast here with Meg, who falls hook, line, and sinker for Goldberg's sort of false charm. Goldberg says, yes. He holds his hand out to McCann. McCann passes him his glasses. Here they are. He holds them out for Stanley. He reaches for them. Here they are. Stanley takes them. So they give them back to him temporarily, but force him to sort of grasp after them in a kind of animalistic fashion. And then they ask about the whiskey. And after Scrapler Liner, we've got 4 bottles of Scotch and 1 of Irish whiskey. In the dialogue that follows here, importantly, there's this Meg's vision, which is completely innocent and naive. I think there's a dramatic irony that Pinter constructs in these lines, because Stanley's vision of their sinister threat is the inverse of a birthday party and the social conventions that normally guide this particular ritual, and that Meg's complete lack of awareness of these characters in these lines is the thing that constructs this dramatic irony. It's almost sometimes a bit of a stretch to say that Meg experiences dramatic irony because she's so unaware generally, not just in these kind of dramatic contexts, but as a character, she's unaware generally. Now, at the bottom, Goldberg tries to force Stanley into partaking in this moment of ritualistic celebration, and Meg joins in encouraging him. And Goldberg says, it's out on its own. Turn yourself around a minute. I used to be in the business. Go on, walk up there. So again, we have this complete sense of inauthenticity that I think sheds light on the other forms of nostalgia that we see him act in the play. That he's able to sort of flirt his way into Meg's affections very simplistically. But again, what we see in that exchange is the hollowness of all of his other forms of nostalgia and their inauthentic nature. So in this following dialogue, there's this huge sense of dramatic tension between her sort of naive integrity and Goldberg's calculating inauthenticity. So we look at these combinations of naive integrity and calculating inauthenticity. But language really, in this case, when it sounds most articulate, is actually the moment at which it's the most inauthentic. And he borrows this kind of horrific bottom-slapping, macho stage presence that you see, I think, Stanley Kowalski enacting in The Birthday Party. And Goldberg says, walk up the boulevard, let's have a look at you. What a carriage. What's your opinion, McCann? Like a countess, nothing less. Madam, now turn about and promenade to the kitchen. What a deportment. Now, of course, there is, again, further dramatic irony in this, because we have this huge sense in this moment in time that Goldberg previously has shown his understanding of the limitations of Meg, and so she falls for it hook, line, and sinker. And here, McCann, you can pour my Irish too, and I think there's a kind of a suggestive quality to this, that his Irishness is something that can be bottled and distilled and sold and moved around. Goldberg's compliments, though, you look like a gladiola, one for the lady, one for the lady. Now, Madam, your glass. Again, we've got this false gentility, this false sense of chivalry, actually, that I think invites comparison perhaps with the mannerisms that Blanche is expecting in Streetcar, that this false gentility that we see Goldberg so expertly mastering is in many ways in line with Blanche's expectations in the play. We'll drink a toast. Lulu isn't here. It's past the hour now. Who's going to propose the toast? Mrs. Bowles, it can only be you. So, of course, there's a huge irony in this as well, that only the most inarticulate person in the play could possibly toast to somebody's birthday. Meg says, me? Who else? But what do I say? Say what you feel, what you honestly feel. Now, here's a really important pair of lines here in the play itself. That actually, the request here for some form of, I think, some form of expression, some form of authentication of Stanley's subjective authenticity in a toast, again, only goes to expose her own lack of linguistic function and also her own misunderstanding of feelings themselves. She's deeply alienated here and has no real idea about what to say. And the huge irony involved in this, say what you honestly feel, and Meg looks so uncertain, speaks to the whole condition of subjectivity in the play itself, and ironically represents Goldberg as the sort of arbiter of authenticity at the moment in which he's being the most inauthentic, as we've already seen. So this is a very deliberate construction of dramatic irony. It's Stanley's birthday. You're Stanley. Look at him. Look at him and it'll come. Wait a minute. The light's too strong. Let's have proper lighting. McCann, have you got your torch? So we have this suggestion here of a supposed celebratory lighting that actually becomes this much more sinister threat of a kind of interrogation lamp here. McCann brings out the small torch and shines it in Stanley, and shines the torch in Stanley's face. And so it becomes this prop, I think, to support the idea that this is an interrogation. And so we have this ritualistic celebration going on alongside the fact, its existence is both a ritualistic celebration and a sort of horrifying emptying of the self at the same time. The pause obviously shows us that there's an inability to articulate authentic feeling and value at this moment in time. I think, again, the emptiness, ironically, shows a violation and exposure of the void of subjectivity itself rather than an affirmation of its existence. And this is a pivotal moment of subjective inauthenticity in the play itself. The fact that people are not able to offer sort of an affirmative testimony for someone that they care so deeply about. They don't know what to say. They can't explain she can't explain what Stanley means to her, and she can't even explain her own feelings. So that there is this huge sense of void at the center of identity in the play itself. I don't know what to say. Look at him, just look at him. Isn't the light in his eyes? No, go on. Well, again, here, the unreliability of her own vision is important here. There's an enormous sense of dramatic irony of her absence of vision of the tragedy and aggressive context that's going on when she actually engages in this proposal hymn. It's very nice to be here tonight in my house, and I want to propose a toast to Stanley because it's his birthday. There's a sort of circular tautological nature to this. I want to propose it to him because it's his birthday, not because of how much it means to her, simply because she knows she should. He's lived here for a long while now, and he's my Stanley now. So there's this sense, I think, of him hiding and her taking possession of him, her fulfilling her needs more than his. And I think he's a good boy, although sometimes he's bad. The language that she uses reduces him into this kind of infantilized pair of binaries that are. This is actually about the fulfillment of her maternal needs more than it's anything to do with Stanley himself. And this gains an appreciative laugh, importantly, from Goldberg, that sometimes he's bad. It's almost, there's this sort of savage irony at this moment in time, that it's actually giving him some sense of purpose for being here that is not there otherwise. He's the only Stanley I know, and I know him better than all the world. And there's probably some element of ironic truth in that, and that knowledge is kind of empty in spite of her feelings towards him. So, yeah, she probably is telling us the truth here, that she does know him better than all the world because she knows absolutely nothing about it. And he, although he doesn't think so, here again, a sense of celebration for undermining her. But what we see is that Goldberg's behaviour here is precisely the type of thing you hear during speeches, and actually it's actively feeding into his aggressive rationale. So something that seems friendly normally is playing a kind of sinister role. Further down, Goldberg says it's a beautiful, beautiful speech after she sobs. And all you good people here tonight, obviously there's a complete misrepresentation going on here. And the beauty, I think, we could read this one of two ways. We could use this as deliberate manipulation on Goldberg's part, a way of sort of celebrating her speech, because he's trying to sort of lever and maneuver himself into this situation. But we could also see this as a kind of a moment of sort of weird authenticity, where this inarticulate performance mirrors his own style of linguistic delivery, and actually then becomes something that he sees beauty in because it confirms nothing. So there's a number of different ways to view him. A lovely toast, the light goes on, and Lulu enters from the door left. Goldberg comforts Meg. Buck up now. Come on, smile at the birdie. That's better. Ah, look who's here. So there's this kind of, again, this overly infantilized language that each of these characters use to reassure each other. And Lulu turns up. Goldberg again here marshals the kind of the social situation in the play by forcing Stanley to be chivalrous. A little further down, he demands that Stanley gets her a drink, and Stanley then ends up adopting Meg's conventional role. Now raise your glasses. Everyone's standing up. No, not you, Stanley. You must sit down. And this is a really crucial sense of the reversal of something that's supposed to be celebratory but is actually very sinister. Is that we're supposed to be celebrating here Stanley's birthday, but actually what we're being given at this moment in time is this, again, the re-emphasis of his subordination and his inferiority. Yes, that's right, he must sit down. You don't mind sitting down a minute? We're going to drink to you. Come on. So they manage to, again, trick everyone in the scene into thinking that actually their hostile subordination of Stanley is actually a moment of sort of friendly geniality. So the physicality here is what depicts his subordination, whilst in the inverse of this kind of usual version of a toast, there's a sense of self-affirmation. So that, again, the physical nature of the theatre itself becomes this authentic mode of communication rather than the language and the empty linguistic rituals that end up marking the occasion itself. Stanley sits in a chair at the table. Importantly, I think the isolation of this image of him reveals and emphasizes his sense of passivity. And Lulu, again, is involved in this now. But Goldberg is the one who takes the stage here, and this is a classic moment of inauthenticity from him.